Now, I just wanted to make a brief presentation of the main growth trends in our markets and those markets, the development strategy for Séché, which is going to be requiring an investment policy, a very forceful policy. And we're going to be shedding light as well on the ramping up of quite a number of our assets in both France and worldwide. Now, the growth drivers of Séché Environnement were clearly defined. Hazardous waste and industrial clients, with 65% of the revenues here, contributing revenues on hazardous waste, 73% of contributing revenues here stemming from industrial clients. Séché Environnement is well positioned and should benefit from the good economic situation here in the industrial sector. And this was the case, for example, in this half year. Now, I did some arithmetic. So since 2015, the average quarterly growth rate in hazardous waste, 8%. That amounts to 8% per quarter. And this is a token, this is a proof or evidence that the dynamic is relevant from quarter to quarter. And this dynamic here originates from a better positioning of industrial activities in France, as well as from Séché Environnement's ability to welcome those volume increases. Why? Because we got available tools, as we said already, incineration tools, for instance, and we also invested in the past. This made it possible for us to benefit from new capacities. We talked about platforms such as the SLS 4 platform, so as to have more diversified waste coming from different customers, a dispersed quantity hazardous waste, and those are new capacities in terms of recovery capacities. And I'm thinking of those investments with Speiching, for example, so as to foster and increase our capacities in terms of distillation and in Saint-Gilbert, for example, in terms of broom recovery activities. Now, the non-hazardous waste sector represents 35% of our turnover figure, and from a structural standpoint, this sector is a more recurring business. Let me just remind you that those businesses are related to local activities, our sorting, recovery activities, our storage activities, our storing activities, and those are local, limited, related to local activities, so volumes are recurring. So, of course, we still need to tap into new opportunities, and a part of our business in this non-hazardous sector is related to public service delegation incinerator management. So if we don't create new capacities, if we just acquire new contracts, we necessarily are dealing with more recurring activities. Now let's perhaps zero in on our client base. In that case, even among local authorities, 50% of the customer portfolio here is made of low cyclical customers, local authorities, 27%, and environmental service companies, which are strongly related to local authorities as well. For example, collectors and recycling industries, cleaning industries, which are working upstream. And other clients are also seeking outlets. Waste treatment outlets. 50% of the remaining part is made of industrial clients on four major sectors: chemical sectors, health, pharmaceutical sectors, energy sectors, metals sectors. And those are major companies facing up to the international markets, and our first 10 customers represent 23% of revenues, and those are among the CAC 40 listed companies. And as far as the rest is concerned, we're talking about diversified customers, 11,000 customer accounts. This is what we have here at Séché, and those clients are being given high added value offers on all of the various types of waste recovery sectors. Treatments represent 50% of our offer, and we're going to have like added values and entry points. And why added values? Because among those treatments, we have been working on hazardous management or hazard management. We're really focused on human health, environment, lifestyles, and entry points. Why? Because or entry barriers, those are highly technical sectors and they're subject to permits. We're working on environmentally classified facilities, which we call ICPEs, and those are unavoidable outlets. Insofar as economic activities, those represent 50% of our contributing revenues, and this is quite stable. And this does make a lot of sense. Why? Because our offices, we said a few minutes ago, are now developing in terms of added values, and the entry points among us, quite a number of customers, require services or recovery activities, and treatment as a result represents an additional operation being grafted onto a more complex or added value offer. So, of course, those recovery related activities represent 18% of our turnover figure. Now we're talking about recovery, matter recovery, and energy recovery activities. When talking about matter recovery at Séché, we're mostly going to be talking about hazardous waste recovery. In other words, rare resources. I was mentioning the recovery of PCB oils, broom. I was also mentioning distillation. With DND, of course, non-hazardous waste recovery were present, but this is an underestimated sector when it comes to the breakdown of revenues because we're not including revenues related to the resale of primary and secondary or trade-related products. We're actually being paid on the basis of our processes. So raw material prices impact is not a relevant issue here with us. Energy, well, they represent 6% of turnover. And we're talking about a recovery of biogas, for example, gas which is generated by fermented waste with methane, which we turn into electricity. And as far as the rest is concerned, we're mostly talking about electricity or steam produced in the cogeneration systems with the cogenerators, and sun energy in one of our storage sites in the Poitou region in France.
The market for energy development is promising, and it has been up since the 2015 law on energy transition, which has created opportunities which are new for us in terms of the CSR market. And with Séché, we have a big project which is being financed now on the development of this market for the city of Laval and its thermal network. The service market are in growth, are progressing significantly each year in proportion to our sales figure. And this is what I said before. It's our activities which generate upstream our development and treatment activities for our clientele who are looking for a more global management of the problem of their wastes through characterization operations, sorting out, elimination, and so forth. So these services are an added value factor in our offer, and it's an element to keep our clients loyal, because we call this a global offer, and we'll work on fairly long periods, that is 3 to 4 years or more for our clients. The development of this offer goes through investments in our tools, capacity investments for performances, our maintenance investments as well, which maintains this tool in an optimal way. And on the level of investments, this reflects the fact that our tools are long-lasting, they're specific, and our waste, the waste we deal with are specific, somewhat sensitive. This explains the level of investments for maintenance. If we have a look at that, we talked about investments for developing our new capacities in terms of conquering new markets. We talked about platforms, about new authorizations for our Changé site from Class 2. We got authorization for a 15-year period. So now we have 25 years more work assured. So this shows our capacity for our energy development operations. So the investment program for 2017 is 62 million euros. It integrates the parameter effects to the extent of 4 million approximately for companies which have recently been integrated. And this takes into consideration our industrial capacity with its technical level and maintenance activities for over 57 million. And this confirms our investment plan for development to the extent of 25 million. So this concerns mostly making sure that our tool services the city of Laval, because a new installation will be inaugurated a month from now. And this will also finalize our professions dealing with waste treatment for the platform. So this is an investment plan which can be seen by an increase in the capacities that we are inaugurating for the non-dangerous waste sector and its impact in integration for Séché Environnement West. We have, at this point, a tool for commercial conquest, which is very well dimensioned. It's quite complementary in terms of the markets we're aiming at in Western France. And this is also considerable. The increase of the Changé site as an exemplary platform for the circular economy with the tools used in our sorting center that we inaugurated in 2015, that was built with technical performances which have been on the increase as opposed to what we had before. And we were able to take on 1.5 times the capacity that we could previously. In terms of technical performances, this anticipates on the regulation evolution. So now it's clearly a tool for commercial conquests, enabling us to capture volumes in a territorial radius which has increased. So this tool will increase in the future with an increase of volumes. Sorting will be done with this. And if we're talking about the furnaces and the CSR furnaces, that is for solid fuels which have been recuperated. This oven is over a 20-year period, and it will provide energy for the city of Laval for its thermal activity. It represents a 20 million euro investment over 2 years, and it will culminate this year with an annual sales figure of 2 million per year. So this is a coherent change from our sorting out activities, our development activities in CSR, of the transformation of this into energy, between local wastes and the restitution of value on the larger territory. In terms of the dangerous waste market, we will see an increase in France of the deployment of our commercial offer. We talked about the offer in terms of development for Brome. Thanks to a big German client in the chemical field, that has increased our expectations in terms of development for Brome. This will continue in 2018 in terms of treatment. This opens new capacities for our platform, which will support the treatment of incineration activities, and on the parameter for radio protection and DSRI, we have a development plan which is in conformity with our expectations and which will enable us to confirm what we've said a few months ago about the operational equilibrium in terms of DASRI for this calendar. For Sadaka, we have contributed in a positive way in the second quarter vis-a-vis the first semester. This is linked to the fact that we have had other orders, enabling us to anticipate on the higher annual sales figure than in 2016. And last but not least, in Latin America, activities in Chile have been will be deployed on Class 1 activities, that is ultimately dangerous waste treatment and storage, and we will reinforce our competitive activities in this subsidiary through the transfer of know-how, such as development techniques, stabilization techniques, I should say, making us a leader in these activities in Chile. In Peru, and of course, the setting up of synergies with Canet, which will enable us to deploy our offer for sachet in this region. Canet, if you recall, is a company in which we have invested along with a local industrialist to develop sorting activities for medical waste industry, which has occurred in this company in the most dynamic way for both DASRI and other professions linked to dangerous waste and deep pollution, such as in the Amazon Valley for an oil operator in Peru who is interested in PCBs. We will inaugurate next week a new incinerator for Canet, which will be the only one in Peru, the very first one, to be up to international standards in terms of smoke treatment, notably. So this is an activity which comes as a complementary activity in our ultimate waste treatment service. We will put both those companies under a common management to set up synergies in this logic for the integration, industrial integration here. So those are a few elements of our perspectives for our assets, and I will pass the microphone to Joël to conclude. So thank you.